Hey y'all, it's your friendly neighborhood therapist. And listen, sinners. I know. Everybody's still talking about sinners. People done seen it for the fifth, sixth, seventh time. I'ma see it again too. But here's something that I wanted to point out that a lot of people are saying that I just don't see the same. So a lot of people seem to think that at the end of the film, Sammie sells his soul. They feel like the scene in which he goes to his father's church with the broken guitar, and his father is telling him, let it go, put the guitar down, give your heart and your soul to the Lord. They seem to think that because Sammie then drives off into the sunset with the piece of guitar that just saved his life, and then the post credit scene shows him at Perlene's, the club he builds and continues to sing the blues in, they seem to think that this means, oh, he made his choice, he sold his soul. Now, art is subjective, so I'm not here to argue with how people saw the film. We all saw so many different things, and it's so many different takes, and some of them I agree with, some of them I don't. That doesn't mean that the ones I don't are wrong, because art is subjective and it's how you see it, what it feels like for you, and how it resonates. But here's why I don't believe he sold his soul. So, the reason I think people are saying that is primarily because he didn't let the guitar go and he left and he continues to sing the blues in clubs. And we still have this idea, some people still have this idea, even after watching this film, that the blues is devil music and it's sung in clubs where people dance and drink and fornicate and all this other stuff. If you watch that film and you still believe the blues is devil music, I don't know what to tell you because no, the blues is literally the soul of black folks. It is the soul of our ancestors. It was literally created out of pain. It is meant to kind of do what gospel does, to tell the story of pain and to tell the story of oppression and to tell all those hard stories while also stirring the soul and showing that there is another side. So, one, if you can stop looking at the blues like his devil music, then you wouldn't think that he sold his soul. He continued to tell the story of his people. His gift being so powerful that it broke the veil is a big deal and a major thing to show you that he didn't sell his soul. In fact, he used the gift that God gave him to continue to tell the stories of the unheard. Now, what I think is happening is that a lot of you are conflating Sammie's story with that of Robert Leroy Johnson. In fact, I've heard it over and over again that Sammie's story in the film is supposed to mimic or put you in the mind of Robert Johnson, who is one of the baddest, if not the greatest and baddest Mississippi Delta blues player to ever grace the earth. And his story or legend says that he met the devil at a crossroads in the Mississippi Delta and he sold his soul for musical success. Now, interestingly enough, his career was only 7 months long. He died a somewhat tragic death very fast, but his music, the few recordings he has and how he played that guitar is still a phenomenon to guitar players to this day and to blues musicians. So I think y'all are conflating that story. But the odd thing about that story too is that his life and death was so poorly documented that it gave rise to this legend. We don't know if it's true, but it could be. He could have very well sold his soul at that crossroads. But that is not Sammie's story. Then the other thing about that too is Sammie for me represents freedom. And you can take that as general freedom or even freedom in Christ because I grew up in the church. And one thing I distinctly remember learning is that there is no bondage in Christ. You are no longer in bondage. You are no longer in chains. So the opposite of bondage is freedom. And so, with his God given gift that is so powerful, he is existing in freedom with the reminder forever of evil striped across his face. So, he'll never forget what he went through, but also he got to be free because him choosing to be a pastor and him choosing to do only gospel music like some people feel he should have done in order to prove he didn't sell his soul, for him that would have been bondage. There is no bondage in Christ. Another thing I want y'all to think about that I immediately thought about, and I don't know if anybody else did, but do y'all remember the scene in The Color Purple? It's towards the end where Suge Avery is singing at the new juke joint and she hears the song being played at her father's church down the road. And she all of a sudden stops and starts to sing, God is trying to tell you something. And they start marching towards the church. Everybody from the juke joint starts marching towards the church. She opens those doors. She walks towards her father, wraps her arms around him, and whispers in his ear, See, Daddy, sinners have soul too. That is what I thought of. That is exactly what I thought of at the end of this film, at the end of Sinners. And if you notice, in The Color Purple, throughout that whole movie, her father had really disregarded her as just this sinner who went and sold her soul and went to the world, forgetting that we are all flawed. We all fall short. We are all sinners saved by grace. Now, grace in the movie, but I'm not going to go there. But we are all sinners saved by grace. So her father embraces her at the end after she says that. See, Daddy, sinners have soul too. So I think y'all got it. I don't want to say wrong because, like I said, art is subjective, but I don't think he sold his soul. And if that's the message you got, then your overall message of the film was probably that it was demonic, and it was not. Nothing about traditional African spiritualities, nothing about the blues, nothing about that is innately demonic. Anything can be made demonic, including the very Bible that y'all idolize. And I've wanted to talk about that for a minute, the fact that y'all have made the Bible an idol. Because you can do that. You can do that. You can make the Bible an idol. Anything can be made to seem demonic or to be demonic. That very same Bible was used to oppress people. That very same Bible, the words were twisted to make people believe back then that they were supposed to be good slaves. So you can take good and it can be twisted and used for evil. Hence why Remick is able to quote those same scriptures Sammie is quoting in that water, because those very same scriptures were used to harm his people and to colonize his people, but they still brought him some form of comfort. Everything that brings you comfort is not meant to actually heal you or soothe your soul. But nonetheless, that's my take on that about Sammie selling his soul. I don't think so. What I think is Stack, not of his own doing, because he did not know that Mary was going to bite him and unalive him and make him undead, but Stack represents that person who chooses to assimilate. Even before he was bit, when Remick and Joan and Bert first came to the juke joint, he was doing the little jig while they was singing Pick Poor Robin Clean, not listening to the words of the song or feeling like this is a little off. You could see him like getting a little into it. Everybody else was a little like, what? So that was to me a foreshadowing of him choosing, choosing which side he was going to go on. So Stack's soul chose to assimilate. Smoke's soul chose to be in community with the ancestors, with Annie, with his baby, with the ancestors. And Sammie's soul chose freedom. What y'all think? All right, y'all. Have a beautiful, wonderful rest of your day, and I will holler at y'all later.